Okay. So again, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us for an informational webinar. We're going to be talking about the facilities grant that we have in partnership with the City of Santa Rosa. And our focus today will be on what you need to do as you're closing out your projects, and what types of compliance and reporting requirements you will need to adhere to. So, let's see here. We'll start off with some introductions. I think I have met everybody here, or at least talked to you on the phone, so you should know me. I'm Leslie Corral Cisneros, and I'm one of the program managers with First Five, and then I'll pass it over to our co-host today, Yanine.
Good afternoon. My name is Yanine Torres Solorio, and I am the person who sends you multiple emails.
Yanine is our fabulous program coordinator who's been very integral to communications with all of you folks and supporting this project. So thank you, Yanine, for being here. So as a reminder, today's webinar is in English, and then we do have one on Thursday that will be in Spanish, so just in case. And we have a lot of information that we're going to cover. And so in order for us to try to get through all of the slides and the content, we want to ask that you please type your questions in the chat as they come up. And if we can answer them in that moment, we will, or if we want to hold off to the end for our Q&A portion of tonight, we may just hold off on the questions so that we can address it at another moment. So, but please do type them in the chat as they come up, because this will also help us think through any frequently asked questions that we can compile and get a sense of how clear this information is. Again, we're looking at very technical language from your facilities agreements that you all read through. So that's the approach for today. Our agenda is a really quick review of our mission and purpose, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, so we'll breeze through those. And then we're going to spend most of the time talking about reporting requirements as outlined in your agreements. And this usually will begin once your project is completed, and then what type of record keeping and data you're going to be providing to us. Again, we have a section at the end for questions, and then we'll make sure to close out the night. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Yanine. We'll be taking turns throughout the evening presenting information.
Thank you, Leslie. So before we dive in, we want to ground ourselves in First Five's Sonoma County's mission, which is First Five Sonoma County mission is to maximize the healthy development of all Sonoma County children from the prenatal stage through age 5 through support, education, and advocacy. This mission supports this grant cycle and all programs administered by First Five. And then, oh, sorry, my computer went black. Okay. We're going to move on to the grant purpose, which you all know is to support the City of Santa Rosa's early care and education businesses sector and increase access to high quality childcare and options for working families.
Okay, so we're going to continue. This is still your slide, right, Yanine?
Yes. So like previously shared in one of the multiple emails that I sent, you can find your facilities agreements by logging into your portal and scrolling down to the documents uploaded by administrator, which is found at the bottom of the dashboard. And then you can click on the file that has your last name, first initial, and 2022-2023 facilities agreement. And then, thank you, Leslie. And then this is just an example of what the dashboard will look like. And I highlighted at the bottom where you can click to download.
Just to quickly check in, has everyone been able to access this? Have you attempted to go into your portal, or is anyone having issues with that? You can type in the chat or take yourself off mute. Can you give me a thumbs up if you were able to access it? All right. I see Jillian, thank you. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Elvia. Thank you, Carol. Awesome. Okay. So we'll be sending this PowerPoint, so you'll see the instructions and the screenshot, just in case if you need guidance to get to your facilities agreement. This is where all the information that we'll be referencing tonight is from.
Thank you. We're going to move forward with the record keeping aspect of it. I don't want to read through all of it because I'm sure you all have taken the time to do that, but I do want to highlight that the commission may ask for copies and records, including and not limited to invoices, materials, personal records, client files, sign-in sheets, or any other information related to the data regarding this this project. Regarding record retentions, grantee must maintain all data records in an accessible and secure location in good condition for at least 4 years from the expiration term or until commission has notified grantee in written. And then Leslie, do you want to add a little bit more to that part?
Sure. So we have sections here that we're highlighting from the agreement. And so in your agreement packet, you'll see them titled under these names. So this is from the audit and inspection section that you agreed to. And then this is the record retention section. And we just wanted to make sure, again, that you were aware that it is possible, but very unlikely, that we would be requesting these types of records from you if we were to come and do an audit. And so we just want you to be prepared for that and know that, you know, any records that pertain to this project that you're keeping track of them and filing them, so that if we were to ask for it, it wouldn't be a surprise or too much of a burden for you to supply any of that information. And we'll talk more about records and the types of records, but this is the term right here that you see. We also, for you, what this means is that you're keeping records up to March 2029, because federal funds allow up to that amount of time for record retention. And so if we were to be questioned by federal authorities or had some sort of lawsuit, we would be required to supply these records for anyone that we contracted with. And that's why we are sharing this with you, so that you're prepared should something like that happen. And so contracts are effective through March 31st of 2025. So again, your records should be retained through at least March 31st of 2029. Okay, so we're going to move forward into the types of reporting that will be required of you once you complete your project. So out of curiosity, how many of you have completed your projects already? Has anyone?
Mine will be completed on Friday.
Oh, exciting. You're so close, Jillian. And Elvia, you've completed your project too. That's awesome. Okay, so you are more ready for this information because it'll be coming up for you soon. And for those of you that haven't finished yet, that's totally okay. What is important is that you know what to do when it is time for you to report completion. And then I see a couple of folks haven't started, and so we'll make note of that because there is some guidelines in the facilities grant about when you need to have started. So we will connect with you more on that if that little stipulation applies to you. So thank you all for sharing this information. Okay, so in the facilities agreement, there's this section on project completion, and it asks for a couple of things. So we are going to get a final quote unquote report from you. And these are the 3 things that you will be sharing with us. But what we're likely going to do, the way that we've been collecting documents from you, has been through the portal. So we will be creating what we call follow-ups, where each of these different elements, you'll have an option to upload what it is asking for. But these are the 3 things that we are going to ask that's going to be considered your report for project completion. So we do want a letter from the subcontractor. So that's anyone that you hired. that's certifying the completion of the project. We have a template. It's a little fancy. You don't have to use it. But what we do ask is that you just ask them for a letter that includes a couple of things. So I have an example that we'll share with you. We'll have this as a Word document that you can use and edit. But really, it's just the subcontractor coming in, and you can even help them if you want. What we're asking is that they just really briefly, again, reiterate what the project was. So you can get that information from your portal. It was included in your application and it's included in your agreement. You can just briefly describe the project and the types of things that they were supposed to complete. And that can be, again, 1 to 2 sentences, a summary of it. And then they're going to say the date that the project was completed. And they can say anything about compliance and quality assurance. So just something quickly stating, that they're confirming that the project was completed as exactly outlined in the agreement, and that they are affirming that it was done to, quality standards, because that's what's important about these facilities grants, that we're offering projects and completing them to provide high quality early learning environments for children. So again, this is purely a sample, an example template that you can use. And these are just elements that you can make sure that they include. You can also write your own and send it to them to just sign off on. Whatever works best for you, we support that. And you can even send us a draft and say, hey, do you think this will work? It can be brief, whatever works for you. We don't want to make this a complicated process, but we wanted to have some examples to share with you just in case it would be helpful. So again, that's a letter from the subcontractor. And then next is proof of payment. So that is that can be supplied with an invoice with receipt of payment to contractor, any copies of checks, or things along those lines. So any payment that you made to a subcontractor, or if you were purchasing equipment, like let's say part of your project was renovating part of the kitchen to be able to supply food for the children, and you bought an oven, but you went out and bought that. So making sure you're saving those kinds of receipts. So all of that will be shared with us. And then we get to see pictures of all of the great things that you all made. So we'll have a section for you to upload pictures that includes every aspect of the project. So if you had 4 different things that were being completed, we want to see a picture of each of those different things. So if you did the backyard, the driveway, and part of the living room, we're going to want to see a picture of each of those projects. So if you're already at that stage, what you'll do is you'll reach out to Yanine. Here's her email, and you probably can find it in your emails as well, but just let her know, I finished my project and I'm ready for you to assign me these follow-ups so that I can provide all of my documentation. We are working to create the follow-up still, so we anticipate having them ready by the end of this month. So we'll try to get them up sooner and we'll keep you posted, but just know that we'll be keeping track of who's reached out to us. And as soon as everything's ready to go, we'll let you know, hey, we went ahead and assigned these in your portal. You should have gotten an email for each of them, just so that we're making sure to keep you in the loop of when it's been sent out. Okay. So there may be a situation that arises for some folks to where you are in the situation of overpayment, which means that first 5 issued you payment, but for some reason, maybe things were on super sale and your total costs were actually less than the grant award that we gave you. So what you need to do in that situation, this language here describes it, but you are required to return the amount of overpayment. So what you would need to do is reach out to Yanine and let her know that you're in this situation, to where, maybe you see that there's $150 left over that you can't account for with your receipts, and that are not part of projects that were listed in your proposal, then you'll need to go through a process of returning those funds. And what Yanine will do is connect you with our finance department, and they'll walk you through that process. So they're the ones that know all the technical pieces of what that looks like. Usually it's you write a check for that amount to First Five, and then you're good. There may also be another scenario for folks where you are receiving additional funds. So what do you do in that situation? This is for anybody that may be actively seeking out other grants. And there was also a state grant that came up, I want to say it was like March of 2022. It was through CDSS. And they took a really long time to let people know whether they got that money. So if you applied for a grant with them and it was the same project that you applied for with us, or you've been applying for other grants and it's for funds for the same project that we gave you, there's specific language in the agreement that outlines what you're supposed to do. So it says that you should notify us within 10 days of receipt of the additional funds and let us know the amount of the additional funds that you received and all the terms and conditions that they laid out for you. And because of the language in the agreement, it says that they, First Five, the commission would ask you to use those funds before using our funds. And that's just the way that it's written in this very legal document that we are looking at. So if this applies to you, you just need to contact us within 10 days, as it states, and let us know what that additional funding is. We can look through documents with you and help navigate the process. But we just want you to let us know this is happening if that's the case. And then again, you will likely have to return some funds. So we'll walk you through that and connect you with the appropriate people. Okay. When you all completed your application, we asked you for a financial statement, and this is something that's going to be a continuous thing that you are supposed to provide to us as outlined in the agreement. So it says grantee must submit an annual organization financial statement, which shall include an independent audit, Schedule C, Schedule K, or complete annual tax filing documents to the commission on or before April 30th of each year through June 30th of 2026, if you're a licensed family childcare home, and then it's through 2029 if you're a center-based provider. So what that means is in your portal, we will have every year through this term, a follow-up for you to upload these documents. Many of you provided your tax filing from that year, and some of you did the Schedule C and Schedule K. So whichever applies to you that you normally do, you'll just make sure that you're providing those each year. And we will always send you an email with like a heads up, hey, this is going to be due, and you're going to get a follow-up in your portal so that we try to flag it for you. So, because we know these things are going to come up in the middle of the year. So we want to help remind you about these. Okay, we're covering lots of information. We still have quite a bit of slides, but again, we'll have time for questions. So thank you all for your attention so far. We wanted to highlight this piece on insurance guidelines. It says in your agreement that the grantee, as you all know, you had to obtain insurance in case you didn't have that already. And so if there are any changes to your policies, there's a clause in here that that instructs you to let us know and within a time period to do so. So if there's any cancellation or reduction, you would need to let us know within 30 days if there's been any changes to the general liability insurance. And if there's any changes to your workers' compensation policy, you would need to let us know 10 days before you make any cancellation or changes to the coverage. So again, it's just communicating with us if you were to do anything to your policies that you presented to us within the time frame of this agreement. And so if that applies at any point, again, you'll be reaching out to Yanine to let her know about that. Okay, I'm gonna pass it back to Yanine for this next portion.
Thank you. So we just want to go over the breach of contract portion of the agreement. I'm gonna go ahead and read through all of them. Do you think we have enough time for that, Leslie?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so the commission may immediately suspend or terminate this agreement in whole or in part by providing written notice where the commission in its sole discretion determines that grantee has materially breached this agreement. Commission may determine that grantee has breached this agreement if it determines in its sole discretion that the grantee illegally or improperly used any funds produced directly or indirectly under this agreement, failed to start the renovation or construction activities within 90 days of the effective date, failed to comply with commission policy procedures or requirements for grantees, failed to timely submit or inaccurately incomplete submitted any reports, data, information, documents, books, or other records required under this agreement. E, failed to maintain at all times insurance required by this agreement. F, has a financial interest, direct or indirect, that is not disclosed and commissioned by effective date or that conflicts in any matter with the performance of the activities. G, used additional funds in violation of this agreement. H, failed to meet any deadline specified in scope of work exhibit A1, or I, failed to comply with any terms of this agreement.
So this is a lot. Sorry, Yanine, do you
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. This is a lot, and so we'll just leave this slide up for a moment for you to just look at it again. Again, this is all in your agreement, but we wanted to make sure you were aware that this clause is in your agreement, and so to be very vigilant about these pieces here that would trigger immediate suspension or termination of the agreement. We don't want that to happen, so we want you to be aware of things to not do so that we don't come to that. And one of the things that is listed here is this piece about failing to start the renovation or construction activities within 90 days of the effective date. And so if you haven't started your project yet, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that 90-day term. I thought we had written down what that date would be. Do you have that, Yanine?
I don't. I was looking for it in my notes, but I don't have it.
Okay, it may have gotten deleted from our talking points.
I will get that date and send it out to everybody on an email just so we
Yeah.
all know.
And it may pop up later. We may have been taking a note of it on another slide. But again, 90 days of the effective date. So that's the date that's on your agreement of when your agreement started. Okay. We'll continue.
So the annual use of property report, prepared for any year in which the construction and improvements of the property as described in Exhibit A are going on shall step forth and the amount of grant funds expended in that year and the expenses to which such funds were applied. Fiscal years 2022 to 2023, 2023 to 2024, 2024 and 2025, which is July to June.
Yeah, so thank you, Yanine. So what we will be doing is collecting data from you on an annual basis, and your agreement shares that we are going to do that. And so what we'll be doing is connecting with you for this annual use of property report, which will tell you what exactly it entails in a little bit. And it's again for any fiscal year in which grant funds were expended. So all of you received grant funds from us last fiscal year technically, but some of you, it also says here, in which the construction and improvements of the property are being completed. So that also means then for some of you, you'll be also reporting for 2023 and 2024. So that's the current fiscal year that we're in. So we will be, again, at the end of this month, setting up this property report, which is basically demographic data for the children that you're serving. And we're going to try to make it as simple as possible. So I'll go over that a little bit more. And I will review it in the next few slides. But again, that's going to be coming at the beginning of August.
Did you want me to do this one, or did you want to go into detail from here, Leslie?
I can go ahead and continue, yeah. So these are the types of things that we will be including in the property report. And what that will look like is a form in your portal where it will have these questions, and you'll just come in and type in numbers. So we will ask, this is fancy data language, the unduplicated number of children ages 0 to 5 and or their family served, and demographics of children served. So what that means is, let's say you're a large family childcare home and you currently have 12 children. You would tell us 12, that you have 12 children, the age range that they are in, or it may ask you for the specific age. And then this piece about families served basically means some of you do activities or events where maybe you invite your families to come out, maybe like it's an informational night that you're doing. And so we consider that family engagement, and we would want to know how many families showed up to your event. Maybe you did an event where you had families come together and it was all about helping them do math activities with their children at home, because this is something you're really passionate about and wanted to share a math night with the families. You would just say how many families came and the event, and that's the numbers that you would be reporting for that. And then we'll also be asking for the demographics of the children. If you don't know the demographics, there is a section that you can say unknown. And so don't worry, this data does not have to be perfect. We just want to have a sense of the number of children that are benefiting from the projects that you've done. So what you'll need to do if you don't have this accurately documented is that you can estimate, or you can start keeping track of that moving forward, because we are going to be asking this for a couple of years. And so I kind of wanted to get a sense from you all, is this something that you already collect, or is this completely brand new to you? You can type in the chat or you can unmute. I just kind of want to get a sense, because maybe you're all like, oh yeah, I got this. I have no problem submitting the data for the children that I serve and their demographics and ages. Thank you, Crystal. You currently don't collect any of that. It's brand new to you, Brittany. Okay, good to know. Thank you, Carol. You don't collect this as of now, but it doesn't sound like it would be an issue to gather it. Okay, that gives me a good sense. This is usually stuff that people collect when they have grants. And so it's when the government or some sort of entity gets involved, right? Then you have to start making reports because they want to know the impact of who they've reached. And so that's why we need to ask this. These are, again, federal funds that we have been passed through to you. And so we're accountable to the federal entities that be to give them these numbers, these reports. And Jillian, same as Carol, thank you for sharing. So one thing we can also do, well, let me finish reading the rest of the things that you would need to collect. The other one is the total number of days children ages 0 to 5 were served on the premises. And what we're going to start this up as the date of when your contract started. And so we know that's kind of going back retroactively. So what you would just need to do is do an estimation of how many days you've been opened, that children have been served in your childcare since you signed your agreement. And so again, it can be an estimate, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're not going to come out and ask families, were they really open for 27 days? We just want to get a sense of what that is. And you'll need to provide us with a number for that. And then some of you may serve children that receive subsidies. That's something like the alternative payment vouchers or a partnership with 4Cs or Sonoma Works. And so if that applies to you, actually here it says center-based grantees only. I don't think we have anyone that's center-based here today. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. So I won't go into that, but this is something that they would need to report as well. So this piece about the total number of days children ages 0 to 5 were served on the premises, we were wondering if it would be helpful for us to provide some sort of template to you, or even create like a Google form where on a monthly basis you can kind of come in and enter this information, so that at the end of the year you're not like going back and trying to capture everything from the whole year. So you would be coming in, you know, like at the end of the month and entering in, oh, I've been open for 20 days this month. And so then we kind of can keep track with you, so that when your annual report is due, we can just shoot you a little email with all the numbers you've entered, and then we'll kind of help you keep track of that. Because again, we want to make this as simple as possible. And then I'm not sure if this is something again that you already collect. So Crystal says that would be great, and Carol, that would be wonderful. Okay, great. So we'll make sure that we do something like that, just to kind of help keep track of this data. And so we'll have an email to you with like information of how to access that and what that looks like, and we can troubleshoot with you if you need help filling anything out. Again, this information, the unduplicated number of children served and their demographics, really, I'm going to go back to my previous slide because I have notes on here that I want to share with you that will help address this more. But we'll have a sample of questions so that you can kind of see what that looks like. There will be like a section for the different races and ethnicities, and you would be putting in numbers. Like I have one child that is white European, or one that is Latino Hispanic, two that are Native American, Indigenous, whatever it is. And then there will be a section again that says unknown. So if you don't know, you can put numbers in that section as well. And we're not going to be collecting any individual data. We're not going to ask for names of children. And again, this is purely because of the fact that we need to supply this information to our federal oversight, should that be requested from us. So yeah, again, we don't want to make this overwhelming, so we will work with you and see how we can help streamline this process once your reports are due. So we will be requiring this information for the last fiscal year, which again, if you remember, was July of 2022 through June of 2023, because we issued funds to you all at the end of that fiscal year. So you'll be reporting these this data in August for March, April, May, or no, was it March? Janine, when was the contract effective? Was it May?
March.
March. Okay, so March, April, May, and June. So there's about 4 months worth of data there. Okay. Janine, do you want to review this slide?
So to continue with the annual use of property report, the commission may opt to schedule an annual visit to the project location, both either during or after the renovations constructions and the project is completed, within 30 days of the recipient letting the commission know that the project has been completed. So we ask if you all can please invite us to come see all the wonderful work that's been done.
Yeah, this is something I know I personally have been looking forward to. We worked with some of you extensively and are really excited to see all the work that you've done. So as you feel comfortable, please reach out and let us know, hey, my project's all set and we'd love to have you come out, and you can send us some date options. And I know I myself will want to go. I know Yanine will want to go, and then we'll invite any others on our team that may be interested too. So please do reach out and let us know if this is a phase where you are ready to have us come out. And then also, if there was ever any concerns, we also may just request a visit too. So we want to be transparent that that's what's written here in the agreement. Okay, this piece I've kind of touched on. I just have it here because I don't want anything to be a surprise. And so we want to share and be transparent with you. We're still learning about what our personal as First Five Sonoma, what oversight and monitoring is going to come from the federal level to us, because we receive money from them, right? So we are accountable to them. So they may come to us and say, we need X, Y, and Z records of who received money and how many children, all these things. And they have this little disclaimer that they are able to do that through 2030. And so because of that, we have this, we're not sure if we actually need to be collecting information from you all through 2030, which is a whole 7 years. We don't know if that's going to be required, but they may come and let us know that yes, they do want us to do that. And so if that is the case, we want you to know that we will be working with you and continuing to receive this data that you're already giving to us for that extended period of time. We don't anticipate that happening, but it may. And so we want you to be prepared and not be caught off guard. So again, this is all funding from the American Rescue Plan Act, which is ARPA, which is how we received funding for this from the city of Santa Rosa. Okay, so we're reaching the end of the webinar. And so there were just a couple of important dates. And so we do have the date here from when you need to start your projects. 90 days is Sunday, July 30th, 2023. And so I know a couple of you already said that you don't think you're going to start by then. So please connect with us and we'll kind of see what the situation is and connect with our team to see if there's anything that we need to do to make sure that you are in compliance and what we need to do to help support you to start your project. So that is the date from when you need to have started according to the agreement. And then all of that information that we reviewed that is considered the annual use of property and expended funds report, we'll be creating follow-ups for everything to be submitted by August 14th. And the reason for this deadline is because every First Five is required to do an annual report from the previous fiscal year. And that usually gets submitted at the beginning of September. So we need time to review that data and put that into our reports. Okay, so now we reached the portion for questions. What is on your minds? What's coming up for folks?
I just have a question regarding the general liability insurance that we had to take out. That's where once the project's complete, can we cancel that insurance?
So that is a great question. I think that technically speaking, yes, and you would need to let us know within these timeframes. There is language in the agreement that says that the insurance needs to be maintained throughout the term of the contract. But if your project is complete, and what we'll do at that point is we'll forward your request to our fiscal department, because we'll want to get confirmation from them that everything's above board. And then we'll let you know, like, yes, okay, we think that that's fine. Or actually, due to the nature of your project, we recommend that you continue your coverage through X amount of time. So do reach out to us, and that's something that we can work with you on an individual basis.
All right, thank you.
Good question. Other questions? Does this seem manageable? Are any of you going to go and pull your hair out after our webinar? How are you feeling? Let me, if you could, just share in the chat so I can get a sense of how this is landing for you all. I do see a question. What if half our project starts before the 30th? How much time after to be completed? I think that if you start any portion of your project, for us, we'll consider that like you've started your project. So if you have like maybe you have the pergola and then maybe you have some other piece that's like something that you're doing. If you start one of those pieces, I would say that we would consider that to be like the date that you started your project. So you should be good in that sense. Everything seems pretty reasonable. And you thank you, feeling grateful. Awesome. Thank you, Carol. Okay. This is one of those things where I know I've heard back for, feedback from people where they're like, I'm never going to apply for a grant, not in an angry way, you know, just like, it's such a process. And all of this data, like it's something that some people are not used to collecting at all. And so it's very different, right? Like this world of grants is very different. It's very technical. And so that is why we want to work with you and make sure you understand what is going to be required and what we need to report, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a question. Did you mention you will be sending forms of how to collect children's data? Yeah, so we're calling them follow-ups and they will be sent in the portal. So just how you receive notification to submit your insurance documents, to submit, I think those are the main things that people were uploading. You will get a notification from our grant portal that says you've been assigned the follow-up for your annual use of data report. And then it'll have a link that you can click on, log in, and then it'll take you to the form of where you're supposed to fill in that data. So it'll all be in your portal, but we are going to create some sort of template to kind of help you all keep track of this data too. So that's something extra. Okay, Carol, thank you. We'll make sure that we touch base with you. And yes, so what you'll do, you'll let us know. The question was if you have to contact Yanine to let her know that your project is completed before you send out the letters. I would say yes, because the letter is supposed to certify that the project is done. So you finish your project Friday, you send an email on Monday. And then we can share this letter template with you. And that's when you're supposed to reach out to your contractor, right? And say, okay, you finished the project. I need this letter from you, please and thank you. And then you may have to wait a little bit, maybe like a week or so until we finish setting everything up in the portal for you to upload these things, but you can start collecting everything as of that time. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's go back to where we were, make sure we don't have any other slides. Again, at this point, I think you all know how to reach us, but here this is just in case. We are not always available to answer the phone and work with you for 30 minutes without notice. So we do ask that you set up appointments with us when possible, or at least understand that it may take us some time to reach back out to you if you were to give us a call. But you can always email Yanine and call and leave a voicemail, and you can say, hey, I'm available Friday for an appointment. Do you have time? What works? And you can give us times. But any time that you can provide us with a brief like overview of what your questions are, that's helpful, because sometimes Yanina and I check in to discuss things and make sure we're on the same page and understand this technical language, because we're also navigating all of this with you. This is our first time really looking at this very specific language and guidance. So sometimes we need to check in before we can provide you with answers too. So please allow for that to happen. And you're very welcome, Brittany. Thank you all for making the time to be here as well. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, I'm glad, Carol, that this was helpful. We thought, we could send a long email and it's just going to be very confusing. So we wanted to at least share the information with you verbally. And then we'll send you this PowerPoint as a PDF. We'll send the letter template so that you have it already and can review that. But more than anything, please take some time to look over your agreement packet. There are definitely things in there that we did not cover tonight because, as you saw, that document is very long. But we wanted to make sure we touched upon some of the bigger pieces that we thought were important for you to be aware of. Any last words, Janine?
I just want to let folks know that I took notes, and anybody who hasn't started their project, no worries, I will connect with you so we can, get that going or talk about what the next steps are for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Janine. All right. Well, thank you all again for being here, and we get to end a little early. So thank you and have a good evening. We'll be in touch and bite us out. And we can end the recording here as well.